Hey everyone, welcome to the Buzzcast on Wednesday. I'm happy to be back here, and they got the whole gang together again. And we're going to start off with Russ and then get into a bunch of little things. Go ahead, Russ.
So here's an unusual thing. We all saw Close Encounters. Well, apparently, or if we didn't, you should see it. It's a Spielberg movie. It's pretty good. Last night, and this has been reported from MIT, that there were signals that were, lasted for a few milliseconds at most, but one lasted up to 3 seconds and included bursts of radio waves every 0.2 seconds in a clear periodic pattern. So it's been reported.
I like it.
And my thing on Twitter is, and now what? Now what the hell do we do with that?
Now
we don't do anything with it.
Now we prepare for War of the Worlds.
What the hell do we do with that?
Now we prepare for War of the Worlds, Russ. That's what happened.
But we don't even know who sent it, Mike. It could be something. It could have been sent from 1960 and went around the world and back, and who knows?
It's so funny. Yeah, I mean, I love this kind of stuff. But yeah, we could do a whole podcast on this if you'd like. But
let me. It's funny because I'm flipping through the channels yesterday. And the worst of the Indiana Jones movies, the fourth one, The Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, the fourth one comes on. And I watched the last 15 minutes of it. And at the end, when everything happens, what comes out of the Mayan pyramid but a spaceship. So basically Spielberg, because that was a Spielberg movie, he's recycling Close Encounters with an Indiana Jones movie.
Wow.
Really, that's what he did.
Yeah. Well, it's like there's a lot. You see that crazy guy on Facebook that comes up, like it just or comes up as an advertisement on Instagram sometimes too. Is like about the UFOs and the Mayans.
I don't see that one.
No, it's like if you go exactly like I don't know 1,500 years ago. There's all at the same time all these carvings of space people and all around the world, and it couldn't be coincidence. And who built the pyramids and all this stuff. I love that kind of stuff. I think it's just amazing, astonishing. So, but we'll never know, and that's the fun part of it, right? So.
Well, a team of scientists are working on it now. That's all I can tell you.
Good.
I have a pre-show as well that has nothing to do with aliens, but real live beasts that wander about the earth. I'm sitting here doing a podcast with Tom Laylaw this morning, and who's walking across my backyard? I'm staring out there now. I've seen him twice now. Is a coyote, and
nice.
Coyotes are pretty prevalent in Michigan, but what you learn about them is the scrawnier they are, the more dangerous they are because they're hungry. Yeah, and so there are a lot of dogs in this area, and this scrawny coyote, and all I could think of was, of course, the coyotes. He's looking for a home. I'm thinking, it's like the NHL coyotes. But anyway, he wandered through, but. As my wife said, there are 2 cats in this area that I'm sure he's in. And there's several small dogs, and so wherever he went, he was gone. And at the end of the podcast, which was like 40 minutes later, he came back from the other direction, heading back from whence he came. So I don't know whether he went out for lunch and had it and came back, or he's still looking.
He was looking for some tacos. Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. I love it.
Let me just briefly do this, and so it would be a good segue into what we're talking about, or at least start to talk about for the show. Yesterday, the All-Star game, baseball All-Star game, and the previous night, the Home Run Derby, and Juan Soto of the Washington Nationals was, very prominent in both. This sort of echoes, in a way, the Matthew Tkachuk stuff we're going to talk about, because Soto has 2 years left before he can become a free agent. So he's got term, and a team that he gets traded to, has some control. It's like Pierre-Luc Dubois, who's 2 years out and saying, I want to be traded. And it's also like Tkachuk, which we'll talk about in a second. And the price, Kev, that the Nationals are reportedly asking for is so obscene that I think every general manager would basically do my usual pat response, which is go bleep yourself. If they expect to get anywhere close to the return that they're asking for, it's bizarre.
Well, I grew up in a union state, and I believe that everybody should go out and be able to get whatever they can get for their market. So there's no such thing as an obscene salary request. It's up to management to say no, and if they do, and nobody else pays it, then then that was the wrong thing to ask for. But to call it obscene, I mean, it's a lot of money.
Oh no! I'm not.
No, he's talking about the offer, like how many first round picks, how many players.
No, if you average out the
I thought you were talking about what Soto won.
No. If you average out the AAV on the 15-year contract offer, it was $28 million. It was actually a low ball. But what the Nationals are asking to get in return is 4 grade A prospects, 1 or 2 major league young players, and take on Patrick Corbin's.
Yeah, but. And
Russ going to match that, Mike.
Russ can certainly verify this, though. I mean, baseball prospects are such an incredibly difficult read. Yeah. Not even hockey is an easier read than that. Yeah. The Tigers have gotten some 5 and 6 players in return for some of their veterans, and and none of them have worked out. Yeah. And you look at Mize. Who was considered maybe the best young pitcher in baseball, and he had Tommy John surgery. The Tigers had half a dozen young pitchers that were supposed to be at the top, and 2 of them in the majors, and they're all just kind of average. So I don't know that in baseball, that's really unrealistic, considering you got to have a lot of them because so few of them actually pan out.
I agree, and I think somebody will meet that term. I think more than one team will meet that term, actually.
Yeah, it's so hard. Those deals, they never pan out.
You're not expecting it to, though.
You're
really not. I'll give you best case scenario. I told fans 2 years ago, when the Mets traded for Francisco Lindor, that Andres Jimenez was a tremendous player, and he will be with them for the next 10 to 12 years. And everybody's like, oh no, look at him, he's not that good. He just played in the All-Star game yesterday and made a great play in the All-Star game. He's playing second instead of short, and he might not drive in as many runs as Lindor, but that's a good return because the guy could actually play. So that's what they're looking for. They have 2 of those players, and then the rest could be prospects.
But it's just so hard to figure out who those guys are. I mean,
but the most ridiculous part of it is that, okay, you're right. It's an inexact science. They could throw 6 prospects and none of them will pan out. But to have to take on Patrick Corbin's, I think it's $30 million contract for 6 more years?
Yeah.
Give me a break.
But that's the game.
Okay. Well,
it's so hard, in baseball. I mean, I just saw, for example, and you would never see anything like this in any other sport but baseball. They traded their first round pick for 5 or 6 prospects. Who was that team? I can't remember now.
I didn't see it.
Yeah, it was the 31st or 30th pick.
I didn't see it either.
Yeah, and they just traded them for 5, guys. And there's so much slotting that goes on in the first round. I'm sure they just didn't want to pay the first round. And
they probably knew that they couldn't get him signed, so they traded. Well, then why draft him if you can't sign him?
Well, and that leads us into the great commissioner saying that baseball players are not living with positive.
He's lost.
Yeah, he's completely lost because they certainly are 5 and that doesn't happen in the NHL. I mean, guys do okay in the minors. I mean, they're not getting rich, but
sometimes they double and triple up in condos. We get that too.
Yeah, they do that, but just to stretch their money. And in baseball, it's out of necessity.
Yeah, they're $14,000 a year is the good ones. Not the good ones, not the bonus babies, but the average ones.
That was a living wage in 1930, Rob. Yeah. So he's like, get a clue. But okay.
Yeah,
that's for sure. All right, ready?
Let's do hockey.
Hello, Hockey World. It's Wednesday, July 20th, 2022.
I'm Michael Agello, and today is the 53rd anniversary of the landing on the moon.
Wow, something positive for Mike. I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
I'm Kevin Allen, Hockey Buzz.
And it's all downhill from here.
It all comes back to the aliens. And I'm Eklund. You're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday to fill you in on the comings and goings in the hockey world. We still have some players that aren't signed yet. We're going to talk about them. But we do have a player who is signed and who, man, has intensely picked up on this as far as trade rumors and things like that go. And I've got a lot of different trade rumors to throw past you about this. But I'm obviously talking about Matthew Tkachuk, who I guess is going to be traded. It really sounds like they're entertaining legitimate offers. Kevin, is that what you're hearing?
Yeah, well, I think they have to. You know, I wrote a column about this, and the funny is I have written a matching column about the Red Wings and Tyler Bertuzzi.
Okay.
Very similar situation.
Right.
Top players, vital to their team.
Right.
But there's the potential that they may not be able to get them signed, and if they don't, a year from now, both of them could walk away from their team. And there's such valuable assets, like even more so, in my opinion, than Johnny Gaudreau, because Tkachuk helps you in so many different ways.
Yeah,
Bertuzzi helps the Red Wings in a lot of different ways, and the return on those players is so incredible, especially for the Flames, given they're coming off having lost that and lost Gaudreau. And I get that it's an asset that you have cap space, that you don't get nothing, you get cap space. But cap space doesn't score 40 goals. And cap space can't change your ability to recruit players.
Right.
Like, Calgary can spend that money, but they just lost Johnny Gaudreau, and they still have all Johnny Gaudreau's money, which means they didn't get any of the prominent guys that have already signed.
That cap space would have been valuable before July 13th, when they could have filled there wasn't anybody in free agents that they could have adequately filled what Gaudreau and Tkachuk provided to that team. But Russ, why don't you tell me tell everybody what you told me when we were talking yesterday about the inner workings of the Flames and how this is just sort of decompensated.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that came to mind, and of course we don't know, but if you're a GM, a year ago, I would have thought True Living could have gotten Gaudreau and Tkachuk in a room and said, "What's the future here, guys? Do you guys want to stay here long term? If you do, let's talk long term." Even if you give them the same exact contract, but you do something like that. I don't know if they did that. So then, Gaudreau leaves after they give this last minute offer, which you knew he wasn't staying. And at that point in time, like when you knew Gaudreau was leaving, you also had a pretty good idea Tkachuk was leaving too. And Tkachuk didn't file for arbitration. And so Calgary filed for arbitration just so no one could sign Tkachuk to an offer sheet, because then you wouldn't be able to trade Tkachuk. Like, you'd be stuck with him, and then not stuck with him, but you'd have him, and then you wouldn't be able to let him you wouldn't be able to trade him for assets. My whole thing on this is, if they knew a year ago that there's a good chance that both these guys were leaving and let it ride on the playoffs because of Darryl Sutter, boy, this is going to be one of the worst decisions that is ever going to affect the franchise, because these guys are going to go downhill quick.
I think the rule is, if, say, for example, St. Louis offer sheeted him, then they couldn't trade him to St. Louis. They could trade him other places, but I don't think that he's locked in place that he can't be traded, period. But that being said, I mean, really, they're in a position now. It's unlike the Tavares situation with the Islanders, because Tavares had a no-move clause that kicked in the year before, so he controlled everything, and he said, "I'm not going anywhere." But before July 1st of that year, Garth Snow could have traded him, and if he didn't have any, complete confidence that he was going to sign, you trade him, because you're going to be lefting the bag with nothing in it. You got that with Gaudreau, and the same thing's going to happen next year, and that's why Treliving has got to.
When was the last time we saw one of these guys, like you're talking about, get traded like that?
Matt Duchene?
Yeah.
No, they were trying to trade him for a long time. That really doesn't count. I mean, a player who everybody thought wasn't going to sign in 2 years, and we're going to trade him now. Can you name a player?
It's not 2 years. It's 1 year. Dubois. It's
give me 1 year, like a player who's been traded the year before they're going to this. I can't.
Seth Jones just recently.
Okay, Seth Jones. There's a good one.
Yeah, there's actually been quite a few. I just can't think of them. But if you give me,
I was looking through it, and I really couldn't find many. And
Artemi Panarin from Chicago to Columbus.
Right, and the Rangers took on Keith Yandel with 1 year left on his deal from Arizona initially. So a lot of guys act. But the thing is, why walk into that draft hoping you could sign Tkachuk if you have a pretty good idea that he might leave, and not walk out of that draft with at least a boatload of draft picks for Tkachuk? Now what you're going to get is like mediocre trade
Oh no!
You still think he's going to get a top thing for 1 year?
Well, you're going to get a lot.
Names you're hearing out there are
okay for 1 year though, because that's almost guaranteed.
Let me ask.
Right, I'm happy to hear that for Calgary's sake,
because I put them in two camps here. I put them in the teams that will want to trade for Tkachuk, that want to sign him and extend him, and the teams that are interested in renting him for a year. And I would assume that the packages for the teams that are just interested in renting them for a year are significantly less than the team.
That's what I was talking about, the rental package.
Right. Now, I
think only St. Louis is going to sign him where he's going to be interested in signing.
I mean, it's not about St. Louis. I keep reading that this is like all a done deal.
Well, I think long term it is.
The feeling is he's only going to go there once he becomes a UFA.
You think he's going to sign somewhere else other than St. Louis?
Yeah. I think there's a possibility. Yeah. I mean, he and his brother and the Tkachuk family, they're very similar personalities, all of them. And I don't see Brady playing in St. Louis.
Right. I mean, maybe Matthew could sign in Ottawa. I mean, Matthew could sign in Ottawa for every. You can make an argument for that too. Like
there's been discussion that Matthew would like to play there. We've all heard it.
Well, for sure, but it's not a foregone conclusion. And
I'm just saying. So, are you going to trade top assets from your team also on the hope that for the year you have Tkachuk, he's going to sign? I'm not giving up that much for that.
Okay, Russ, and I'm writing.
I'll give you a first and a top prospect. That's it. That's all. I'm
going to write this after the show. I'm advocating, obviously, for Toronto to go all in on Matthew Tkachuk, because look at their situation. They need to win. They need a power forward. I think they have the assets. Namely, a guy like Nylander, who's got 2 years left instead of 1. It would be more than that, obviously. But Elliot Friedman reported a couple months ago that the Leafs need to make the hockey version of the Kawhi Leonard deal. This is it, because Tkachuk is going to go someplace else. If he's not traded to the team that he wants to be traded to, he's going to be a one and out. But you know what? He's a good enough player that I would trade assets to get him and take your shot. It's better than sticking with the same formula that's lost 6 years in a row. So I think there are teams out there that would trade for him, knowing completely that they can only have him for the year.
I think everybody's going to try to extend him, though, obviously, and everyone, and I think that we could get to the point here very quickly that Calgary lets them even talk to them about it, about extending him, because we have to. If you're making that trade, if you're going to get the most value, someone's going to trade more for an extended Tkachuk,
Yeah, I'm convinced that he has not made up his mind to go to St. Louis. I mean, I think that's attractive to him, but I don't think he lived in. I remember running into his dad. And early in his career, and I'd say, how's Matthew doing? How's Brady doing? Because I know the Tkachuk family, and he'd say, I don't even see Matthew. He lives in Toronto in the off season. He works with Gary Roberts.
Yeah.
So I don't know that St. Louis is quite the lure that people think it is. I mean, I think it's on his list, but I think would be open minded for the right situation. So you got to go, Mike. Go.
No, I was Ottawa makes a lot of sense from the Calgary perspective, because they have so many young assets like Formanton and Batherson, and not to say they're going to trade Jake Sanderson, but they've got Stützle. They've got the potential of offering a package to Calgary that is good enough that helps Calgary and it gets them the Tkachuk. Believe me, I'm Toronto fans, Montreal fans. They don't want to see both Tkachuk brothers together. That would be a big challenge to beat.
The odds of him extending there are slim, and them even paying the right money.
I think I think it's not likely to happen, but I think it's a possibility. I mean, I think too. I think different in Ottawa now.
I wouldn't think he's going to extend in Ottawa.
I mean, the people are putting the Matthew. Obviously, St. Louis. We all know that he would like to play in St. Louis, but it hasn't been like. I don't get like 4 years before Tavares signed in Toronto. Mike, you remember this? I talked to you about it. Mm-hmm. I had a really good friend of mine who was at a bachelor party in Toronto with Tavares and a couple other people. And he told me that Tavares is going to go to Toronto. I was told that that's flat out. He wants to go there. That's where he wants to play. No matter what happens, he was sitting around drinking with a guy in Tavares, like, I'm going to be called with all of his friends up in Toronto. I'm going to be playing here soon. I haven't gotten that moment with Tkachuk ever, but I've heard, let me finish, please. Okay. I have heard for sure the concept of, that, okay, he wants to play there. Rutherford, the reporter Rutherford out there in St. Louis believes that this is happening. We see, was it Brady or him? It was Brady that we saw in the playoffs in St. Louis, right? One time cheering on the Blues
in Calgary.
In Calgary, right? Cheering on for Matt, right?
Right.
Okay. Yeah. But we've never seen him in St. Louis, like cheering on the Blues in the offseason or anything like that.
No, but they're from there. Yeah. So.
Yeah, they're from there for sure. But, like we just saw with Johnny Gaudreau, just because you're from somewhere doesn't mean you're going to go there.
Yeah. I mean, I've never had an indication that the part of the master plan is getting everyone together. And everybody said the same thing about Brady. And he didn't do that. To me, I think it's a possibility that he would try to get back with Brady. And I wouldn't preclude. I don't think it's likely that he would sign there. But I think it's open-ended, particularly if they're changing their ways there.
Wouldn't you say Brady's as good a chance as St. Louis, Kevin? I would. I mean,
no, I wouldn't say that. I would say St. Louis more, but that doesn't. I don't think that it's like a foregone conclusion that he's going to St. Louis. I don't think this is John Tavares in Toronto. I really don't.
And Ottawa. I mean, simply Ottawa. If they're in on this, they would ask for permission from Calgary to talk to Matthews' agent, and if Matthews' agent says he's not gonna sign a deal, then I don't make the trade. It's like I'm only making the trade and giving up the assets that potentially Ottawa would be giving up if I can sign him to an extension. So that sort of guards against that one and done. But I do think there are teams out there that would be interested in trading for him. On the, of course they'd like to sign him. They might not be able to afford to sign him, like the Rangers or Toronto or somebody like that. But I do think that, okay, one and done, come in, win a cup with us, go have a nice life. I think there are teams out there that would do that.
Yeah, there would be, and it's just a matter of, what I would do that I think they didn't. The failing in Calgary on Johnny Gaudreau, is not that he left, because you can't legislate players' thought process. If they decide to go, there's really not much you can do about it. But their failure was either not understanding how likely he was to leave, or knowing how likely he was to leave and still deciding that the best course of action was to plow ahead. And
that's what I was saying. Yeah, it seems like that's what they did, because they had to have known one of these two guys was not coming back if they didn't know two of them were.
They also just signed Blake Coleman. Remember, like that going into last year, right? They signed Blake Coleman, who is kind of a guy you have to feel a little bit bad for right now, because he signs a big deal there in Calgary, right? And then thinking after going all the way to Tampa, now he's sort of stuck, right? So he's kind of.
Let him finish, Mike. Mike, let him finish. Just one time, let him finish. Jeez.
Tried to sign Blake Coleman, and and as it all plays out, Blake's stuck there now, and you've got Tkachuk now leaving town. You've got Gaudreau already out of town. I think I think that definitely is a spot. But I think last year, Russ, I don't think you could do anything but go for it in your first year with Sutter. Like that's all I can.
They locked themselves into that, and all I'm saying is, once you lost out on Gaudreau,
right?
They had to go either heavy on Tkachuk, or they needed to trade him already, because I just feel like now it's kind of like they do have some leverage, but not a lot, because they have 1 year of contract, but that's not a lot. That's never going to get unless he extends with this new team he goes to. You are never getting close to what Matt.
Mike, thanks, Mike. I appreciate it.
Go ahead, you got the floor, Mike.
Give us again. Sorry. Go ahead.
I know. And now I forgot what I was going to say.
That's great. Fantastic. That's pretty much perfect.
Think about it. The one thing I would do if I was them, and just because, again, I know the Tkachuk's a little bit, they're kind of honorable people. And I think if you went to Tkachuk and said, hey, look, all we really want to know is, are you leaning toward leaving? Is there any possible way that you would stay here? And I think he would give him the truth on that, saying, look, I haven't, maybe he hasn't made up his mind, but I think he would say, I'm leaning on, getting out of here. I'm an American kid. Whatever. It doesn't matter why. But and then they'd say, okay, well, here's what we'll do. We'll try to accommodate it the best way. We're going to be professional and try to, help you along the way. You've served us well and everything. Just be above board about it, and you make the best deal and move on. Like, it doesn't have to be, the end of the world if everybody's just kind of honest about what they want. Like, it reminds me of when Zach Parise left the New Jersey Devils. So one of the things he said was he dreaded calling Lou Lamoriello, but when he called Lou Lamoriello, he said, "I understand. He wanted to go home." He said, "I've run into many players who wanted to play at home. That sometimes that's just what you need to do, and I completely understand. Thanks for being a good player here, and have fun and good luck."
I think that anyone in this business, Kev, who's like, who's really worth their salt, like, understands how to separate those moments. Like, they understand that they know that there is a family aspect to this. There is a,
sure.
And it sucks for the Flame. The Flame fans, of course, hate what happened with Gaudreau, but at the end of the day, Trevelli was pretty good. Go ahead, Mike.
But this is a cautionary tale for other teams, and obviously, from my perspective, Austin Matthews is from Arizona, born in California, from Arizona. He's got 2 years left in his contract. They can sign him to an extension next July 1st. Okay. Well, Kyle Dubas, I'm sure right now, is already on the phone with Judd Moldaver, who's the agent for Austin Matthews, and saying, as soon as it's available, we're giving you 20%. We will make you the highest paid player in the NHL. And Austin Matthews loves it in Toronto. He said as long as this team is competitive. But this is this is the motivation for Kyle Dubas. You've got to make this team successful and consequential. And that's why I'm saying roll the dice on a deal like this, because you need to win. Otherwise, you have to worry about 2 years down the road, Austin Matthews saying, I'm going to go to greener pastures. I'm going to go someplace else. You've got to think of that.
Yeah. I think one of these days this week, maybe on Friday, let's come up with trades that have been kind of like this. They've gone on to make things happen. Like, they've gone on to be significant hockey trades where big players move on both sides. Like, that's what you're going to see here. I mean, I've been having some fun asking GMs and assistant GMs and coaches and everybody, what rumors have you heard about Tkachuk? Just tell me anything. That's been my fun line with everybody. Just what's going on? Give me the funniest, stupidest things you've heard for Tkachuk. Here's a couple of things. I did hear this is not crazy, but Batherson along with picks from Ottawa, would get it done. They thought someone.
No way. No.
I don't know what that means exactly. I don't know what picks mean. Picks could be.
Even if it's 3 picks and Drake Batherson, you have to make up. If you're Calgary, you're trying to make up 200 points.
Yeah. Right.
I'm telling you right now, if the first word out of Pierre Dorian's mouth is not Stutzla, then Terliving hangs up the phone.
Like, how are you making up 200 points anyhow?
Dorian's not giving him up for even.
No, but the first round pick for next year for Ottawa,
yes,
if it's not protected, is potentially an interesting pick.
They're going to be a better team. They are going to be a better team.
They are going to be a better team.
That pick is going to be in the middle of the first round.
Still, the next year's first round. I mean, first round picks next year. People are really like treating it. When you think about it, the Flyers could have gotten Johnny Gaudreau for next year's first round draft pick, and they didn't do it.
They'll have about a 2% chance of getting Connor Bedard. They're not going to be they may not be a playoff team because they're 2%.
No. Yeah. I get you. But here's another one. The Blues would need a defenseman to waive his no trade clause to Calgary. I've been told. I don't know what that means. I'm not trying to figure who that would be.
That would be Torrey Krug, probably.
Yeah, Krug is the one.
Package that deal along with Tarasenko. And
Tarasenko has to agree to it too. He's got to agree to it too.
Now, don't you think Tarasenko might agree to go to Calgary? It's a pretty interesting place.
Well, the problem is he doesn't have enough contract for Calgary. They would be running into the same problem with.
Right, he's 1 year.
Right.
Yeah, none of these deals that these guys, I don't know who they are, but
I'll tell you the name I came up with. If they did it with St. Louis because he's from Saskatoon, maybe Braden Shen, who's at 6.5 for the next 3-4 years. If you throw him in with Perunovich and some picks, maybe that gets it done. I think maybe Braden Shen would go there because he's from there.
I was also told Trevelyan is asking the Devils for Bratt in the deal. Just
I mean, that's fine.
I would expect more than.
But the Devils don't want to move a top 6 to get a. They want to add a top 6, but they don't want to move a top 6 to get a top 6. They want to add a top 6.
That makes no. You're not going to get them then.
Yeah, you're not going to get them then. Exactly. No. So this is the situation.
I mean, listen. Okay, let's just review what you've talked about. Tarasenko's got 1 year left in a contract at $7.5 million. He is a dump in this deal because they need to clear the cap space to sign Tkachuk. Right. I mean, he has value, but probably value only flipping him someplace else because he's probably a one and gone too. So that makes no sense.
Yeah, I mean, I see Chris Callahan's putting up the Krug, Kyrou, and a first. The money's close. The money almost does it. So I guess that's a possibility. It's a decent return. It's a decent return. Kyrou's a good player. Krug's a good player. But you know what? In the end, Calgary's still going to get killed on this one. But it's a decent return.
4 St. Louis Blues defensemen have no trade clauses. Falk, Krug, Parayko, and Letty. So it's one of those.
None of those guys are all that desirable. Obviously, Krug leads them, and he would be worth having. But
do you think Parayko is the most desirable of those 4, Kevin?
No, it's Krug.
Not anymore. Yeah.
Well, he was at one point, but he's been. Mike just did the right thing. He's been up and down, and So,
I mean, I think I don't know. I feel like he.
I think that's a reasonable offer, though.
No, it's not unreasonable.
Kyrou, Krug, and depending what the draft pick is.
And that's
or a young guy like Jake Neighbors or somebody like that, like a really good young prospect. I mean, you're talking 3 or 4 pieces more than likely. And see, the thing is though, if they don't like the 3 or 4 pieces from St. Louis who and we're just surmising that St. Louis is the team that he wants to go to. That may not be the case, but wherever else he goes, unless they have some guarantee that they're going to sign him to an extension, then the packages are going to be smaller. They're probably going to be.
St. Louis could hold him off because O'Reilly's done in a year, and so is Tarasenko. They'll have the space.
But they won't have the space now. That's the problem.
I promised my.
If he goes there and they say we're going to extend you, just wait until the summer. He'll do that.
Right. What is he going to take a 1 year, $5 million offer?
Not, whatever it is, whatever comes out of the arbitration or whatever it takes.
It'll be $10 million. That's what it's going to be.
Well, no, 10 is the high number. That's
right. His qualifying number was 9.9, and he scored 100 points. He's going to get $10 million on a settlement.
Yeah, I think it's going to be up there too.
It'll be up there. I don't know if it'll be 10 because if it was 10, like why didn't they just pay it already?
Because they know he's gone. He's walking.
Because they know he's gone.
So Feds, in my chat, I put up something today. I played the Year of the GM game in my blog today, which people love doing. And I asked our readers to put up their best proposals. So let's go through a couple of those real quick and see.
I'll bet they're better than some of those ones you got from the GM. Those are not good offers.
These were discussions. They're just discussions. Yeah,
I'll just say that for the future show, we refer to 2 trades. One Kevin is very aware of, and that's the 1981 Buffalo-Detroit deal, 4 for 3 that involved Foligno and McCourt and Danny Gare. The other one is the LaFontaine-Turgeon deal. That was a massive, and then obviously Gilmore with Calgary and Toronto.
Yeah,
those are 3 deals we could talk about.
We'll start with Toronto, Mike, for your sake. Okay. Thanks for being such a good guy today. We're gonna go. So we have they say Nylander, Kerfoot, Sandin, and a first.
I don't think. I mean, I think it'd definitely be Nylander, Sandin, probably Nick Robertson in a first. Kerfoot is a salary dump.
That's a lot, Mike.
I know, but he's
all right. Panel, who would do that?
I think everything but Kerfoot is okay there. If I could substitute out Kerfoot, I would do it because it doesn't affect my today roster. Mm-hmm. But
I think Calgary would do that deal for right now.
They would.
I do too.
That Mike put up
the Robbins, yeah.
But not for Robertson, Sandin, Nylander, and a 1. It's a big risk, and more than likely, it's a 1 year thing. But I think go bold or go home.
Yeah, it might be too much.
It might be too much. Maybe,
but it does. I think it would get it done.
It would get a conversation going for sure.
Maybe they'd get away with just.
I would not give Robinson
just Nylander, Sandin, and a 1. The thing is, Nylander is under contract for 2 more years. He was born in Calgary. Not that really means anything, but you hold on to him for 2 years. You got value there. He is a 70, 80 point forward. I mean, he's not Tkachuk. Nobody's Tkachuk. But
I think you at least have a chance of recouping 65% of the points you lost in that deal. So I think from that perspective, it's good. I think Dubas might do it because he's on the hot seat anyhow.
Exactly.
But if the Leafs do it and don't win and don't retain him, the Leafs are in big trouble after this trade. That's the problem.
Well, this is the other thing. And this is the other thing, and then we'll move forward.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned with Matthews. Matthews' contract is up in 2 years. So is Nylander's. So think of it this way. Matthews takes precedence. How do you open up the cap space if the cap hasn't gone up in 2024? You have to trade Nylander to clear his salary to pay Matthews. So why not trade him now and get a guy who might be a difference maker?
Yeah, I'm just saying your prospect pool's not that deep, and you're giving up 2 key cogs in the prospect pool at least. So,
let me throw this out though, just to talk off the last trade. Yeah. If I'm Steve Yzerman, I call Dubas because I hear this is going on and saying, you should take Bertuzzi.
Right.
Like he might get a fewer goals, but he can do everything else, and he'll still score a lot of goals, and it won't take 4. I think Nylander would, and something else could get that done.
And the issue there is, because I do know, Kev, and you know too, that the Leafs were interested in Bertuzzi a couple years ago. I think it was before the pandemic. But the problem is he's still not vaccinated. And
August 9th, it's supposed to change.
It's supposed to change? Okay. If it does, that's great.
Yeah.
Someone wrote Bertuzzi on a first, Kevin.
Or Bertuzzi and Robinson.
Straight up for Tkachuk. Does that make any sense?
Oh, no, yeah. I was talking about Bertuzzi.
There's no way Calgary would do that. They're in the same boat having to try and sign Bertuzzi then.
Right.
No,
value-wise, is there anything?
There has to be more. There have to be more.
Yeah, Bertuzzi's a pretty good player, though. And
Oh, yeah. No doubt.
He could serve the needs of Toronto.
Yes.
Yeah. And the one thing about he's very, Tkachuk is too, but Bertuzzi is very popular in the dressing room. Very. And a lot of it has to do with whenever there's trouble, he's first in line, and he looks out after his people. And I think Oscar Sundquist had a great quote about him when he called him a crazy hillbilly, and he meant it in the as a term of endearment.
Yeah. All right, but then Kev, the big question is, if he is this good in the room, and he's going to get vaccinated, why would the Red Wings let him go?
Because they can't.
They don't want to. They're trying to sign him, but they're they've had trouble. He thinks his value is higher, it seems, than Yzerman does.
That's going to follow him, though, because the next team he goes to, they're going to have the same trouble then.
Well, maybe. We'll see.
Yeah, and to balance it out, I would probably say if it was Tkachuk, Bertuzzi, and maybe a Philip Roenick for a plus a 1 for maybe that would be closer to what they would want, because
Block Michael Cohen, he put Travis Konecny.
It would be interesting if obviously the Tkachuk boys both lived in Michigan with Keith when they were playing national development, very familiar with Michigan. And they one of the Hughes, I think it was Quinn, lived with Matthew as well. Could the Red Wings come in and talk them to Matthew saying, hey, come, that Larkin and Tkachuk know each other.
He played in London, which is not too far from Detroit. He played his junior hockey.
Right.
Are they willing to pay him $70 million on a contract?
I think they might for Matthew Tkachuk. They're going to pay Larkin a lot of money. So, Larkin's already at 6 and change. It's not a big leap for him to go to 9. And
the only thing is, if they make that deal, Kev, Yzerman can't talk about a rebuild anymore. Same as the Rangers, it's over. He's got to talk about competing now. He's got to get off that.
What I'd like to see is Matthew Tkachuk go to Anaheim, so the Drew Doughty Tkachuk rivalry would just
that'd be fun.
Explode.
So as we continue with how much return could a good Tkachuk earn if a good Tkachuk could earn return? This is another one I've got. So Ottawa sent, this is from Only a Lad in our One Hockey Buzz. Ottawa sends a 2023 first unprotected, the 2023 second, Pinto and Batherson for Tkachuk.
Not enough.
It's close. I think they would rather have a player instead of the second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with Russ. I think you're moving right there. I think now you're talking.
There, though. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you're close, but I think instead of I think it would have to be another young forward. Pinto has been hurt the 2 years.
Yeah.
So I would say
talent, but yeah, he has been hurt.
I would say Formanton, Batherson, and Formanton.
Okay. All right. How about this one? Ducks send next year's first round draft pick unprotected. The earliest of their seconds next year that they have, however that plays out.
Yeah.
Comtois and Perreault.
First of all, the Ducks wouldn't even be involved in it.
They would hang up the phone.
Yeah, they're not even.
They're not going to talk to a person near them.
Mason McTavish.
Yeah. Right, here's A. Richardson, 22. Sanheim, Konechny, York, and the 2024 first.
See ya.
Yeah.
Nope.
Nice chat.
Okay, let me offer one from the because he's unsigned. I haven't heard any kind of acrimony in terms of the contract situation, but how about Jason Robertson head up for Tkachuk?
Dallas is not going to do that.
I know.
Yeah, they won't do that.
Yeah, I know.
They have him on term. Like, why would they do that?
Yeah.
They don't. He's an RFA.
No, but they're gonna have.
Yeah. But you got him.
Some term on him.
LA Kings. We're not going to send them there either, probably.
Well, depends who you're offering at.
All right, I'm just throwing it out there.
Well, but I see the Kings. You can't even talk about offers from Anaheim because that's not the kind of player they need right now.
Right.
In a rebuilding team, and it doesn't make any sense. But the Kings want to try to win, so why wouldn't they make an offer?
And they
Peterson, Dursey, Roy, and a second.
They don't need a goaltender, so why would you Cal Peterson?
Yeah, they're not doing that.
No, again, name one, Quentin Byfield. If you don't get a linchpin young player, I'm not talking.
Yeah, Byfield would have to be in the deal.
Byfield would have to be in the deal.
Yeah, like general managers really don't have Mike Agelo's personality. Like they don't say things like that.
There's a reason why I'm in last place in our fantasy baseball pool, Captain.
Yeah, well, I'm right there with you. So
Mikey 27 offered to trade Murray Craven straight up.
Yeah.
All right, we're moving on, which I like. Then here's a good one for the Flyers. Farabee, Frost, Provorov, Sanheim, Hart, in the next 5 first-round draft picks. I know, I'm just kidding around, but I'm going to get to a legit one again. But there are some good ones in here. We appreciate you guys having some fun with this. All right, 3-way trade. Let's try this. Okay,
all right, here we go.
This is a good one. You guys have pieces of paper with you? All right. This involves Montreal, Winnipeg, and Calgary.
Okay.
All right, Montreal will receive Pierre-Luc Dubois. Winnipeg's third.
Just skip the draft picks if it's not a first.
The Jets will receive Tkachuk.
Okay, they're not creating Tkachuk to Winnipeg.
The Flames would receive Kirby Dach, Caden Gould, Winnipeg's second, and Montreal's third. And there you have it. Nope.
Russ, am I wrong to say that the seconds and the thirds and the type of deal like this are inconsequential?
Yeah, I mean they're not going to move the needle that much. Caden Gould's a heck of a talent, but none of it's enough. Like,
how about Josh Norris, a first-round pick, and Eric Randstrom?
They're not trading Josh Norris.
They just signed Josh Norris. They're not trading. He's a third year.
He's their top line center. It doesn't. You don't bring in Tkachuk and trade the top line center. And the other thing is, we shouldn't even do like Winnipeg. Right. What good would Tkachuk do them?
Yeah.
He's not going to sign there. They're not close enough to win. So why talk about whether or not that's not even going to be in the ballpark. They're not going to listen to Tkachuk deal. So
no, I'm with you on that one. The amount of teams are obviously limited that can do this.
Russ, what would a package from the Rangers be? It would start with
the Rangers would have a hard time getting this under the cap.
Kako.
So even if you say Kako and Kravtsov and a first, there's a cap issue. Like they'd have to give up a cap player.
That's the big issue here, Kev, is that most teams have spent the money that they would have in terms of the room to be able to fit.
Well, what I heard when I said that there was a lot of players, as the two GMs I talked to, oh boy. So there's another dog in my yard, and it's not the coyote. So if the coyote is still out there,
wild kingdom going on there.
Yeah, it does. Well, what I had heard from two general managers is they believe Tkachuk, that a player with some salary, a player with a pedigree, is going back on the trade just for the reasons that Mike said that the idea, usually the top prospect, first round pick, third asset is not the kind of trade that is probably going to happen here, because it involves a player that's going to have an incredibly high cap hit. They felt it was going to be a player going back of some note.
Now let me throw something in here as a possibility, because again, going back to St. Louis, Ryan O'Reilly is the only one of the top forwards with the St. Louis Blues that does not have any kind of no trade protection. When Ryan O'Reilly was in Colorado, what team offer sheeted him? The Calgary Flames. Now, it was a different general manager. I think it was Feaster at that point. Yeah. And he screwed it up because they really couldn't have. I guess even if they had let him go, there was some clause in there that would have made him a free agent instead of being signed by Calgary. But there was interest in Ryan O'Reilly. And now the thing I find hard to believe is are the St. Louis Blues going to trade their captain?
Everybody trades a captain, so I don't think that's an issue.
But somebody who was instrumental in winning them a Stanley Cup, and somebody who is still a very good player. He's 31 years old. He hasn't dropped off. He was, he was in the top 5 for the Selke. He's a really good player.
Yeah, let me interrupt you for a second. I think, sorry, it was a joke. I think that, you're making an interesting point with St. Louis there, because the Blues are for sure. I think the Blues believe they're better than everybody else thinks the Blues are. And I think that they might be right. And that's the interesting thing about the Blues are very good, and they're a very good team. And the reality is, remember, really, if that goal doesn't happen, like with seconds left in that series, with Colorado, by Helm, if Helm doesn't score that goal, who knows, that's how close the Blues were and possibly knocking out Colorado. So when you think about it,
heck, there are some St. Louis fans that think that they were a Nazem Kadri screw job away from winning.
Right. There's that too, right? So the St. Louis Blues are a very good team, and the one problem with getting Tkachuk right now is you're going to have to tear that up a little bit.
Well, yeah, of course you are. But the idea is, and this is when I was talking to someone about it yesterday, the knee jerk is always like, well, they're not going to trade O'Reilly, but they haven't signed O'Reilly. So how do we know O'Reilly is going to be able to stay there at the money he's looking for? And Calgary has a lot of money. So that could be a fit, and that is a suitable player to have in there with somebody else and a pick.
Right.
And
they would have to know in advance, though, that you'd have to almost have the Blues sign O'Reilly, and then he'd have to want it to go, because otherwise, you can't take that chance if you're Calgary. I mean, you're
that's true.
When I talk to GMs, Calgary's going to want somebody they know is going to be under contract. They don't have to worry about for a few.
Is the underlying story here, Kevin, that Calgary is turning into a team like a Winnipeg and a team like an Ottawa?
Well, I don't think it's quite that bad, to be honest with you. I mean, Calgary does have some lures. It's a nice city. It's less cold. So.
That's a great sell.
It's less cold
than Winnipeg.
Less cold.
More taste, less food.
I think there is some truth to that. I mean, they can't recruit like, the Rangers or Vancouver or LA or, some places like that. So, but I don't think it's quite like Columbus or Winnipeg or Arizona.
Buffalo,
yeah.
All right, Kevin, I was just texted, and I'm sure you know this already, and I'm bringing you old news, but the rumors flying around that Klingberg could be heading to Detroit.
We've heard that rumors, but it runs contrary to what Steve Eisman has said publicly, and Steve generally tells you what he's up to in some respects. He said, and this was his quote, "I'm not looking at other free agents. Right now on his cap, he actually doesn't have, believe it or not, $8 million to sign Klingberg. However, this is the scenario that I've laid out that I think possibly could make it work.
Right.
He trades Hronek to Dallas. Dallas signs Klingberg, and then he comes back. So
now, are we talking a 1-year deal?
No.
Okay.
We're talking an 8-year deal.
Oh,
right?
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, why the
No. It had just been out there that Klingberg was talking 1-year deal with a couple teams, and I hadn't heard anything about him talking long term. But if it's an 8-year max, I mean, or 7-year, because it's unless it's a sign and trade.
Right.
So there's been discussion about it. I mean, it did appear on a couple of podcasts that's been floated around that he was interested in going there. Originally, it was thought that Yzerman, but he did say. He came on and said, I'm pretty much done with free agents. Okay. And then, and again, he's left himself. Right now he has like 10 million, but he's got 2 other players to sign. Here's the other thing too. He's already over 23. He's at 25 NHL contracts. That does not include Edvinsson, who's projected to make the team. So
he's over 50. He's over 50.
No, not he's over 50, but he's over the number of NHL players to fit within his 23.
Right.
Despite what sometimes readers think, NHL teams don't send one-way contracts to the minors very often.
Yeah.
So anyway, I based on what he said, he was done. He said basically that he was done, but I do know they like him. And I do know they were interested in him at the beginning of the year. And I do know that Hronek didn't adjust well to the arrival of Seider. So given all that, could they make that work that way? Maybe, because I think Dallas would need a replacement. Hronek's a pretty good player.
He's a right D like Klingberg is.
Right, he's a right D, and he's got some offensive ability. He can play on the top of him
for sure.
Yeah, no, that's right. So I could see that. I mean, now it's only cost Detroit $3 million and change.
Right.
Klingberg's under 30. So
can I just?
Yeah, it's a lot. There's a lot of Klingberg going. A lot of 1 year. There are 1 year rumors flying around, and I know I've talked to a couple people, and they absolutely are talking about that, even though they don't want to do that. Of course, that's not what they want to do, and they're not publicly. They're publicly saying to other people they're not doing that, but They are absolutely talking to some teams about a short-term deal. Mm-hmm. He has kind of painted himself into a little bit of. It seems like the biggest deal is in Seattle for him that he could get, and and Alexiak's there. Obviously, they were paired together for a while, so that's a possibility. But I think beyond Seattle, I've heard Ottawa, Florida for both 1 year deal situations, and Detroit. I think somebody told me a 3 year deal in Detroit, but you don't think it would be a 3 year deal?
Klingberg taking a 1 year deal.
No,
because I think if he was going to do that, he would have just stayed in Dallas this whole time.
Yeah, I think he thought he could get more. I mean, people think sometimes, we were learning.
Well, I think Klingberg thought he was going to get $60 million.
Exactly. That's where I'm at. So
I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Remember back to February and March, he was like, I want the Miro Heiskanen deal. That's what he wanted. Well, you're not Miro Heiskanen. I mean, he's a fantastic offensive defenseman, but defensively in his own zone, he's lost sometimes.
There's no doubt that, because again, when I was at the draft and Neil was asked about Klingberg, has there been anything? He's like, no. And that's just because I think with that number, he just turned Dallas into
he scared a lot of people away.
Yeah, he scared them away.
I think if it were a normal salary cap, free agent market, he would have gotten his money. But this is not normal. Coming in, there were, as I pointed out, there were too many teams that, already had too many commitments, and there wasn't enough money among the teams that among the contenders. And if you're a rebuilding team, do you really want a 29-year-old defenseman? So, it was the wrong time for him.
Now, in the chat, they're asking about Kadri, and the silence is deafening because, I mean, he's the big name out there. I think everybody thought he'd be signed by now. Has he miscalculated? Is this Taylor Hall? Is this Cody Franzen, where his worth and what he thought he was going to get and what reality is are completely two different things?
I think so. I mean, and well, he was hoping to go back to Colorado, but Colorado has run into the same situation that the Flyers ran into about people saying, well, we know you're in trouble. We know you need to move him. We know you need to move them, not Kadri, but they've tried to move Gerard, and they've tried to move Comfer, I've heard. And they don't really want to move either of them, especially Comfort. But it's always been like, okay, a first round draft pick, and people just are afraid, or really, the Flyers didn't want to trade a first round draft pick. They don't want to trade a first round draft pick. I mean, I think that this situation, Comfort and a first round draft pick, that's a lot. I mean, that's a lot to give up to bring in Kadri.
That's the going rate for a salary dump. That's what the Leafs paid along Patrick Marleau to Carolina, and that's apparently what the teams wanted from the Flyers for JVR. That's the normal price.
That is the rate.
Yep.
And Arizona would do it. I heard Arizona is the team that's willing to do that. But
I'm going to ask Kevin this question because, the word is that there's multiple teams trying to clear cap space to get Kadri signed to something. Yeah. Is that who's going to be the winner, Kev? Whoever gets the cap space, is Kadri going to have to go to that team?
Yeah, I think. By the way, I think Kadri did miscalculate. He didn't miscalculate his value. He miscalculated what the market looks like. And I think that's the only thing really holding him back. But Lamoriello is lying in the weeds.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to get somebody.
And he's dealt with Kadri before, Kev.
Yeah, for sure. And I think
he's going to come out of the weeds and announce these moves so that he can sign Kadri.
Well, he doesn't have anything done. He's trying to get stuff done. That's the problem. And he's just like everyone else. And everyone's just going to have to be patient. It might take some time, but I think Kadri will eventually get his money because he is the very valuable.
For how many years? I think it may be fewer years now. It might be only 3 or 4.
He's 32. I would say at the max.
No, I think
he's 7.
Oh, I think he's going to get at least a long-term deal beyond 5 or 6, maybe.
Maybe.
So,
maybe.
All right.
Who else do you think's in on this, Kevin? I mean,
well, I think Calgary would like to be.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see, how he feels about that. I think Colorado is still in it.
Yeah.
I think they're nosing around. They're seeing what they can do. They've got the players they want to move. The difference between what Colorado is doing and what others have done, when you're dumping Van Riemsdyk, you're dumping a player that really nobody wants.
Right.
Teams want Gerard.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So they may eventually be able to work out a deal. Even Comfer, I know Russ likes him better than I do, but I know he's a valuable player. I mean, I know he can contribute. I just don't think he's quite as good. But there are teams who certainly could use Comfer. So I do think they'll eventually be able to move them if they want to do that. But they've got to make their decision. So I think Colorado's in it. I think Calgary can be in it. And I think the Islanders are in it.
Yeah.
Other than that,
Seattle, maybe they got the money.
Yeah, but they've got young centers coming. They want them to play.
Right.
Kadri could certainly play the wing. He has.
Yeah.
What Buffalo?
No,
I don't think so. They don't want to spend.
No, they're not interested in paying $1 over the cap floor act. They're interested in finding out what their young players are. They have a lot of young players. They're very hyped up on the players that they had at the development camp. They're going to play all those guys, play them a lot, see what they got, and then only then will they start investing. So I don't know. I don't think.
Wiseman's already said Detroit's a no, right, Kev?
Yeah, I don't see that happening. I mean, where would he play? They've just got in Copp to be their number 2 center. But I would like to say something about Buffalo. Yeah. And just a theory I have. I could be wrong on this, but I know you know him too, so you could weigh in as well.
Yeah.
But I think once they got Granato, I think they see him as an incredibly talented young teacher. Yes. And I think part of the reason that they've decided to do this is because they believe Granato can take these younger players and mold them. And by giving them a team where they've got to play because they don't have anybody else, they feel like he'll be able to do more with them. I think Granato's talents is playing heavily in their decision.
And 100%. And I'll add on that, Kev, his reputation and his experience with USA Hockey. When they do go in free agency, him being the coach in Buffalo will be like attracting bees to honey. I mean, there will be, maybe not Matthew Tkachuk, but I'm sure, he coached Tage Thompson. He coached all these guys when they were 15, 16 years old, and he's a teacher and he's a good guy. And that will be an attractive factor to bring. Now, it's tough to bring free agents to Buffalo, especially when ownership doesn't want to pay them. But in a couple years, they'll be a threat because there's a lot of young players that'll start coming to the forefront.
Well,
so
I have one more player.
Yeah.
So Phil Kessel's out there. Even in the worst goal scoring year of his career, he's still at 52 points. Like, the guy can still play. He's 35 years old. Who's going to sign him?
He's going to get a job, and I'm completely with you on this. I don't understand why, and I do know David Boyle didn't put him on the Olympic team either, but I don't know why Nashville doesn't jump all over him.
Yeah, I agree.
He should be there, and there's plenty of teams that need scoring. That
you sign him to a 2-year deal. Like, what's the?
I heard Ottawa possibly. A
veteran minimum playing with Pittsburgh. Brian Burke is the guy who brought him to Toronto. He played with Malkin and Crosby.
He probably wants more now. He probably would have done that already.
Well, and maybe they'll give him a little more, but that makes.
Yeah, I think Phil's probably waiting to see, and probably Pittsburgh has said, you can come to us, and but we only have X amount of dollars. But I did want to go back to what Mike said, because I'm buying everything he's selling there, and I'll take it even a step further. He's going to attract people who used to play for him, because not only did he develop them well, but they like him. He's a very likable coach.
Incredibly likable.
And once those American players start coming there, others are going to start coming, because the American players stick together. They like each other. Kopp came to Detroit after calling Dylan Larkin. Dylan Larkin is kind of like a Pied Piper with the American program, and there are other players out there like him. And so if they get one of those Pied Pipers coming into Buffalo, in addition to Granato, they'll start, bringing in top American players. And Buffalo, I mean, I agree with you that it's a hard sell for Buffalo, because it's damn cold in Buffalo.
So aware of it,
yeah. But
people have cold hearts there.
Yeah.
Even in the warmth of Cheektowaga.
Well, but they got hot tempers, as we know, with Mike.
Yes.
But let me one other thing with this, with him, as you're saying, I one of my favorite moments ever was doing a cross country flight from from Vancouver to Boston, with sitting right next to Granato. And I was just amazed, first of all, like you said, it is like at his kindness, as like you say, he's a great, very likable guy. He's a funny guy, but also his smartness and his his hockey intelligence was just off the charts. We've all talked to hockey people. His always was off the charts. And I think that you could see how he'd be an incredible teacher. And he always has the right way of looking at things. And there's been so much instability in the coaching position in Buffalo. I'm really glad that they've gone this route. This makes so much sense.
Let's try to answer this quickly. But we haven't heard anything about the Evander Kane arbitration. Now, he signed the extension with Edmonton, and apparently he was asked whether he was dropping the arbitration thing with San Jose, and he said no. So, this is taking way too long, Kev. I'm shocked that it's not resolved at this point.
Yeah, and the fact that the PA is not pushing either on this, I don't think anybody feels real good about what's going to happen. And a lot of people think he's going to win because of the fact that it was a little unclear. This is the American Hockey League rule that he was under at that point in time, and all that kind of nonsense. And so now what happens? Now he's got a higher salary, much more difficult for Edmonton to fit in. And if they want him, they'll have to make a deal. Now, the deal, San Jose doesn't want anything to do with it, so it can be future considerations, but it's going to cost Edmonton more money.
Right.
Unless San Jose agrees to retain the difference, I think it was.
Well, a lot of people think that's what will happen. So.
Right. If that happens, they're gonna win something else from Edmonton too. Though they're gonna win. That's not gonna. They're gonna
you're probably right.
They should. They have no reason not to. Like maybe PRV or somebody like that. But they really have no reason not to do that. Yeah. And usually what happens when you don't know arbitration case endings is that there's maybe a side deal trying to be worked out. That's what I found.
Well, according to the rules, you can do side deals. So not on a contract.
Yeah, but you also can't talk to players before the day of free agency.
That's true.
And according to what I heard from Elliot Friedman a couple of days ago, there are teams that are pissed off that players signed at 12:01.
Oh yeah,
there was no 5-day. Now we know that they do. So bring back the 5-day negotiating window.
I've heard that too. I don't know. I don't understand why that's not back, Kev. I don't know why they took it away in the first place.
No, I don't either. And I also have never understood why it's always been wink, wink, and why we have deals signed that not just 12:01, but 12 and 15 seconds. You know,
we know the terms 2 days ahead of time. Sometimes that's like the crazy thing about it. Like, not just the day signing there, but we know terms.
Well,
obviously,
how long did we know Campbell and Edmonton's deal?
I know 3 or 4 days at least.
Week.
Yeah, but we knew the actual number too. Like, it was crazy. The whole thing was just. No, I agree. It really is. It really is kind of nuts. But I'm with Kessel. Another Kessel. How about Kessel? I know they don't want to spend money. We just talked about it. But how about bringing him in at a low salary to Buffalo? I mean, there is something there. You know, a USA player.
Can't hurt him.
I don't think. Okay, I think Kessel in Pittsburgh with a lot of strong personalities around is a good fit. Him because he's a veteran guy. Coming in and maybe expected to be sort of a leader in Buffalo when they want the young guys. I don't think they want him as an example. He's sort of a laissez-faire type of guy, and he's really good, but I don't think he's a fit in Buffalo. I think he's a fit. Yeah.
He's not a leader. He's shy.
Yes.
But he's incredibly funny.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he's just one of those guys, he would rarely talk. But when you ask the Penguins about him, they'd all say the same thing. Out of nowhere, there'd be a line and the whole room would be cracking up. He just has a great sense of humor.
I don't see where he would hurt Buffalo, honestly.
He rarely talks, rarely in a room. So he's a big video game player, those kind of things. So
yeah, no, everybody who's ever played with him likes him. You don't hear people say bad things about him. He's just like, he's exactly like, and for all the fans, all the hell he gets from the fans, it's really been, I think, kind of a shame at times, and Team USA has gone all over the place, but I remember the funniest thing is that, I had a long talk with Brian Burke years before Burke was in Toronto, at least 2 or 3 years before Burke was in Toronto, about Kessel and the Olympic team. And Burke didn't want Kessel on the Olympic team because he says too lazy, doesn't come back. And then he goes out of his mind and trades a lot to get Kessel into Toronto. So it's amazing the love-hate relationship between the different situations.
Yeah, and then he put him and JVR on the Olympic team. So
Right. Later he did. Yeah, exactly. So there you have it. All right. Quick show again, guys. Even though we can always talk hockey. No question about that. We thought we might have to end early today. We didn't think we'd have enough to talk about. That's all there for today. We'll be back in tomorrow, folks. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. Keep on top of everything and enjoy your summer.